American 1863.
Hello, I'm Captain Kent Ween. I used to fly the MD-80 out of New York, and in fact, I flew this particular airplane from Chicago to Fort Lauderdale and then on to Dallas-Fort Worth. Today I'd like to just point out a few of the quirks and some of the features of the MD-80. Each time you press the button on the center console, a special feature of the cockpit will be highlighted. So, push the button and we'll get started. On the front side of the throttles are the reverse thrust levers. One unique quirk to the MD-80 was, at the gate, we were allowed to lift those reverse thrust levers, which redirected the air from the engines forward, allowing us to power back from the gate without using a tug. It was a noisy and dusty process that lasted only a few years. While the overhead panel may look a little bit complicated, it's actually divided into separate systems. Starting at the top, we had the electrical system, followed by the fuel system, air conditioning, and pressure tank. At the very bottom were enunciator lights. So if any problem happened, these lights would light up indicating what the problem was. Note that each switch was a little bit different from the others. This was to prevent you from selecting the wrong switch. The flap handle allowed us to increase the surface area of the wing by selecting flaps for takeoff and landing. In fact, leading to the MD, we could even fine-tune this more using a dial just below it, giving us a way to fine-tune the flip setting, say to 17, for example. The co-pilot sat in the right seat, and next to their left foot is a red door. That's the alternate gear extension, which, ironically, is the normal method a DC-3 used to lower its gear. It's a bit of a throwback to an airplane they built many years earlier. To align your seat properly, there were two sight gauges, one for the co-pilot and one for the captain. When you look down the sight gauge and it's lined up, you'll know that your seat is adjusted properly for flying. Above your head, we actually had a sunroof, which gave us more visibility. However, on hot days, if it was too bright out, we often found that we had to cover it up with anything we had in the cockpit. It shows our route, which is made up of a series of waypoints. It also showed what time we would arrive at each waypoint. This is the speed brake lever. By squeezing and pulling it back, we would extend some panels on top of the wing, which slowed the aircraft. If you look down where your feet are, that's the rudder pedals. Not only do they move the rudder left when you push left, right when you push right, but at the top of the rudder pedals, activate the brakes, which will slow us down on the ground and keep us from taxiing too fast. In order to know how fast we're traveling, we have an airspeed, which is displayed in knots. A knot is essentially 15% more than a mile per hour. Just on the ring of the airspeed indicator, we have some plastic pads. Those are called bugs. We'd set these bugs at different speeds and it would tell us when to rotate the aircraft, when to lift off, and on landing, at what point to put out various sets of flags. On the yoke is a chart holder. You can hold charts like a taxi diagram or a brush chart. See the mirror on top of the glare shield? It's actually there for the pilots to check the compass. It's almost like they forgot to put the compass in the airplane. The only good spot was behind the co-pilot's head. Well, that's not really the case. It was put there to avoid electromagnetic opening and closing the outflow valve to depressurize the aircraft. These are the throttles. Essentially a gas pedal for your airplane. Moving the throttles forward increases the thrust, and moving them back decreases the thrust. Look above the windows. Notice the track? One of my favorite features of the MD-80 was that you could take the window shades and slide them on this track all the way around the cockpit. So, you can put it exactly where the sun was, since the sun wasn't just always so straight. In the event of an engine fire, the fire handles would illuminate. After pulling the fire handles, the fuel system, the hydraulic system, the pneumatic system would shut off. Primary flight system gives us a digital brief of airspeed and the orbit, along with the superficial horizon, which allows us to fly. The MD-80 had two radios. The left one was typically used to talk to air traffic control, while the right one was used to talk to American Airlines operations. In order to see how high we are, we have an altimeter, which displays the speed of the ground. So, if we're flying at flight level 320, it would read 32,000 feet. These are the landing line switches. They would extend the landing lines out of the wingtips, which, for its primary function, lit up the runway and secondarily gave us a little bit extra drag to help us slow down. The MD-80 was a mechanical pin that popped up, indicating when the nose wheel was down locked. So the airplane had a feature that was kind of unique. It's called the curve flip. When you push the curve button, instead of the throttles advancing, gliding to maintain speed and level flight, the airplane was allowed to climb and descend ever so slightly. The only problem with this is that you might be 200 feet higher or 200 feet lower than your assigned altitude. If you look in front of you, you'll have the yoke, which is essentially a steering wheel for the airplane, like in your car. Turning it to the left rolls the airplane to the left, turning it to the right rolls it to the right. If you pull back, the airplane climbs, and if you push forward, the airplane descends. We would generally use the autopilot for most of the flight. However, for takeoff and climb out, we would hand fly the airplane, and also for the approach and landing. So when we're not hand flying the airplane, we use the autopilot. And to control the autopilot, we use these three knobs to control speed, heading, and altitude. The MD-80 had three different fuel tanks depicted here. The left and the right main, which were in the wings, and the center tank in the fuselage. Once the aircraft was fueled, the total fuel is depicted just below that, and the gross weight showed up at the bottom, showing how much the aircraft weighed. On the front side of the throttles are the reverse thrust levers. One unique quirk to the MD-80 was that at the gate, we were allowed to lift those reverse thrust levers, which redirected the air from the engines forward, allowing us to power back from the gate without using a tug. It was a noisy, dusty process that lasted only a few years. So when we're not hand flying the airplane, we use the autopilot. And to control the autopilot, we use these three knobs to control speed, heading, and altitude.
You have a lot of room in
Lieutenant, please prepare for landing. As massive as Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport is, it is actually very easy to get around. All 5 terminals are U-shaped, and the Skylink train connects all of them, so you can get from one terminal building to another very easily, and you just go to your gate where either left or right, depending on whether you have a high or low number. It makes getting around very easy.